Welcome to another exciting episode of American Warrior Radio, coming to you since 2009. If you or someone you know has ever worn the uniform of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, Space Force, or National Guard or Reserves, you've come to the right place, American Warrior Radio. We're always efforting to bring you news, notes, interviews, and current events for all things military and veteran related. The bumper music for American Warrior Radio is provided by none other than combat veteran and mill hop artist Stephen Hobbs. Thank you, Stephen. With that said, let's kick the tires and light the fires and get this episode off the ground. Hi, everybody. Garrett Cohen with American Warrior Radio Show. I want to encourage you, first and foremost, if you like what you see, share this information, subscribe to the YouTube channel, because that's the only way we're going to grow this. We get great guests and they have great information. Just share the information and subscribe. Well, we are privileged today to have a special guest, really an up-and-comer in the Hollywood scene. Let's talk about none other than Rocco. You like the name Rocco Vargas. Hi, Vince. How are you?
How you doing? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, and thanks for coming on, because you got a lot of stories to tell. But before we get into any of that, can you give our viewers just a little bio, like when you went in the military, what you did, and what you're doing now?
Yeah, I joined the military in 2003 with a Ranger contract. I eventually got through all the training of the pipeline for that, and I went to 2nd Ranger Battalion. In my first initial contract, I did 4 years with 2nd of the 75th Ranger Regiment. I did 3 combat tours, 2 to Afghanistan, 1 to Iraq as an infantryman. I got out of active duty.
And you survived.
Yeah, thank God. I got off of active duty and went into the reserves and continued to serve in the reserves in the capacity of a drill sergeant. And then eventually I did a short time as an NCO in the psychological operations environment. And then I retired in 2021 as a drill sergeant. In 18 years, I got medically retired.
So PsyOps, I heard that in there somewhere. Let's go back for a moment, though. 2003. What motivated you to go into the military? Is there a family tradition? Did you have just a desire to serve?
My father did serve in the Marines, but he never pushed the military. It was really, my life kind of came to a point where I had to figure it out. I lost a full ride scholarship that I had for baseball because of academic issues. I really wasn't, focused on my academics. And so that happens. And at the same time, I had a daughter. And when she was born, I kind of was trying to figure out how I can supplement income to be able to help her and buy diapers and whatnot. And so the war was happening, and I was kind of in a fork in the road. What do I do? And so I decided to join the military.
Would you recommend guys and gals go into military service today?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I try and introduce my kids to the same idea of it and the opportunities that it presents, but also the socioeconomic position it can change in a lot of people's lives just by supporting, the service and picking a job that, 1, you get an extra skill set, but 2, you get a lot of the benefits outside of that. And 3, you kind of get to see the world outside of what you're used to. And I think that's important for personal growth to be able to step outside your comfort zone.
Well, speaking of personal growth, you went through a whole lot of transitions while you were in the military. As you said, you got medically retired. So I'm guessing you would have served out a longevity retiree had you not been medically retired. But given that set of circumstances and you getting out, did it prepare you, or did it set you on a plane to do the things that you're doing? Would you say it had a good part?
Yeah, the military, at the time I was very immature. Obviously, I couldn't get my academics figured out, not for any other reason that I just wasn't really focused, and it wasn't, the utmost importance. But joining the military, I realized that I have a skill set that I never knew. I was good at the job. And I realized that if I was good at this job, all the aspects that I took to this job and learned, I could take that into the civilian world and be just as successful. And so, I really just learned the hard work it takes to get wherever I need to go. And so I think that's a super important thing, is also a lot of confidence. I believed in myself. And I think that's really important when getting out of the military, just believing in yourself. If I could become an Army Ranger, well, then I can become a law enforcement officer, or I can become an actor. And, I kind of use that time and time again and continue to pursue my dreams.
Check both those boxes. So post-military, give us a little flavor of what you've been doing.
Yeah, when I got out of military active duty, I went into the prison space as a prison guard for a private prison. Did that for about 2 years as I was applying for other jobs. I went to school to be a firefighter and whatnot, and eventually I found myself in the Department of Homeland Security Border Patrol. I did that for about 7 years, and then I walked away from that to pursue acting and writing. I currently am a writer and actor in the Hollywood space, as well as a published author.
Well, and let's talk about that, because you mentioned that you weren't necessarily geared into the academics early on in your life, but you get into the military, things develop, we mature as people, and you're a published author and you have your own podcast. Talk about the book first.
Yeah, I was sitting here in my comfortable trailer in Hollywood and watching the news and got very frustrated about how the news was trying to portray the Border Patrol. I knew that it was a very, I guess, obscure career field. A lot of people don't understand the ins and outs of it. And I felt compelled to tell my story in a way to hopefully bring light to a career field that doesn't get enough attention. And so I did that. I wrote that book, and that came out just recently called Borderline. But at the same time, I was on a TV show for the past 5-6 years called Mayans MC, the spinoff of Sons of Anarchy. I played a character named Gilberto Lopez, also known as Gilly. And I played it throughout the duration of the series, as well as I was a writer for the last season. And so I've kind of evolved
You even wrote some of the episodes?
Yes, sir. And so, I've evolved as a person. I've evolved as a writer, as an actor, all because, I really believe that the military kind of set the foundation for that. I believed in myself that I could accomplish these things. I've grown a new, love for education, and, I finished my bachelor's degree. I'm finishing up my master's degree currently right now as well. And so it's one of those things that you can, you still teach an old dog, new tricks. And I think I'm evolving as a human and as a man to try and be the best version of myself for my kids, for my wife. But also I know that the position I hold right now, a lot of veterans do look up to me, or at least see what I'm doing. And I'm just trying to provide, some kind of, if it's inspiration, if it's just a beacon of light, if it's just blueprints to how they can do it, I'm
just try and spark that. Sure. Published author. The book is Borderline. You got to get it, people. And you even will offer an opportunity to autograph the book if they buy it and send it to you and what have you. But you have a wonderful podcast. Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, the VinnyRoc podcast, that's, to me, is a place where I can kind of be myself and invite friends that I find have fascinating stories. I have a really cool network of friends and people that I've ran into in my career, or who have had personal connections to my personal growth. And I invite them on the podcast to tell their story. The one that came out today is a gentleman who's a business owner, special operations, and just watching him go through his transition as well. And as he tries to find his way through it, he's been able to, develop 2 very successful companies. And so I think it's fascinating. And I think it's important for us to highlight these veterans who are doing successful things, but not only just veterans. I think just highlighting successful people and being a positive space of information. Too often we have a lot of negative in our world. People harp on the bad things and not the good. And if I can do anything in a positive light, that's what I'm going to try and do.
Brother man, and you are doing it, and I applaud you for that. We're talking to Rocco Vargas. Get familiar with him if you're not already. And I just want to talk, it's the new year. We're in 2024 now. This is the fresh start for everybody. Rocco, you're a perfect example of what you can make of your life. And the military played a big part of that, and you mentioned that. But the podcast, the book, talk a little bit about your acting ventures.
Yeah, I found I've done a lot of different things for therapy, and one of the things I did was, theater therapy, and acting was a way for me to kind of learn my full spectrum of emotions again, to kind of become human again, allow myself to be emotional, be sad, to express. And, I'm in the position right now where, I can pick and choose what jobs I want to do. And so I'm hoping to see some really cool jobs in the near future. There's talks about a couple potential projects, as well as a couple writing projects that are on the cusp as well. And, we'll see how it all goes.
Yeah. And you mentioned therapy. So with all your combat exposure, I'm sure you, like a lot of combat vets, face some special challenges. when you got involved with the VA, I'm assuming you filed your claim with the VA and things proceeded the way. Are you satisfied with your rating and what have you?
Yeah, and I'm pretty persistent. I think it's an important thing with VAs. You have to be persistent. You have to really. It's frustrating. It's a long road, but the persistence is really what makes it win over. There's things I'm fighting now for my kids. Trying to get their education benefits figured out, and some of my paperwork wasn't completely done correctly when it comes to my home of record, and so that actually affects some of their college situation. So, I'm still in the fight, but I'm persistent and I won't let up.
And, that's a great comment, because perseverance is really what's carried the day for you in your life. And then we apply that and you really push with the VA. You can accomplish what seemed insurmountable, so long as you said, you persist at. You got to persevere. You got to be an overcomer. And you certainly are, brother. We're going to continue to keep tabs on you and your acting career as it develops. And you're publishing. I haven't read the book yet, so I have to confess, I'm going to get my signed copy. How can I get a hold of your book? What's the best way?
You can buy the book on Amazon. You can buy the book at any Barnes and Noble as well. Sometimes I drive by Barnes and Nobles, and if I see one, I'll go sign all the books that are in there. So you might be lucky enough to find a signed copy. And we're going to be hosting them on our website here soon, on the Veteran website, veteran.com. And so those should be up hopefully by the end of next month. And those will be signed copies as well.
Sweet. Everybody, we've been talking to Vince Rocco Vargas. You know him. You've seen him on the big screen and on TV. The podcast, what's the name of the podcast again?
VinnyRoc Podcast.
Easy to remember, everyone. VinnyRoc Podcast. Thanks for joining us today, brother. Good to get to know you, and hopefully you'll come back and share some more information and some anecdotes with our audience.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, brother. And everybody, again, share this, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget, thank a vet. Hi, everyone. It's Garen Cohn with American Warrior Radio. I'm here with my good friend Christian. We're here to deliver a very important message about a crisis in our land.
Suicide prevention, more specifically, veteran suicide prevention.
22 a day are taking their own lives. This must stop. This can't continue. If you or someone you know is contemplating suicide, please know that God has tomorrow planned for you. Don't take your own life. And just remember, suicide is a permanent solution
to a temporary problem.